All right, what's up, guys? Welcome to the 128th episode of The Get Down, brought to you by Digital Music Pool. My name is Cream.
GaryW here.
Yeah, I'm in the middle of like a big travel run here.
I know.
Big travel run.
You travel during the summer much more than I do. I like to travel the whole rest of the year. You're a big summer traveler.
I like the beach, man. What can I say?
You know what? That's true. That is why. It's because you like the beach. I can
went
go
on
to the beach
vacation.
all year
I
round.
saw the sun 2 out of 7 days while I was on vacation.
That's awful. I know. You were texting me. I was like, just go get beers.
Pretty much, a lot of beers. But it's been nice. I sort of set up some of these bookings around my trip. So I was up in Massachusetts, and I got to play Avalon Mohegan Sun the first weekend, then went to vacation, and then on the back end, I played Torino, which is on Cape Cod. So think like beach bar party spot.
Right.
And then Saturday night, I played a new spot in Providence called Soul. Incredible, beautiful new venue. So it was crazy, right? Because my first gig at Avalon was probably my best set I've ever played there. Most energy, best feedback. I had like a big spender just throwing me $100 bills all night. It was like one of those.
Was that your first Saturday there?
No, I've kind of graduated to Saturdays there now.
Okay.
So I think that might have been my third one.
Okay. Now that's the Avalon that has been around forever, right? Like is that the Avalon that was up in Boston?
I believe so.
And the
I
one
know
that
it's in
we
ownership
had in New York?
They own a few different entities in Boston, and then also at the casino.
Right. Like that, because that has been around forever and ever, I believe. If that's the same Avalon.
I don't know, because we had Avalon, New York. I know that was something different, so I'm not really sure if it's the same or not.
Right. I think and I don't know if the Avalon, New York City and Avalon, Boston were related back then, but they were still both around at the same time because a lot of the big, I can remember like PVD and Tiesto going to play both. Like they'd hit the New York one and then they'd go up and play the Boston one.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, because when you said that, it hit me the other day. I'm like, this thing's been around for 20 years or so. Like, it's had legs, but it might be a different one. I don't know. I got to look into it.
I wanted to bring up the three sets because after my first set, after Avalon, Gary and I are always sending each other texts and emails to remind us about topics for the podcast as they're happening. So I literally emailed Get Down after my set and was like, a topic we need to talk about is how one really strong set can carry you through for like the next month of sets.
Where it motivates you, right?
Right, where it motivates you. You get this huge reaction. You can't miss as a DJ. You're playing all the right songs. And a lot of times that confidence and that energy will carry you through a number of sets, even if they're just like small local sets as well. And then the next weekend, I had a lighter weekend. And and that topic kind of went out the window, right? Where I played Torino on Cape Cod. Their Fridays haven't been as busy as last year. Last year was packed, slammed from the first song I played, and I was expecting that same energy. It was still an awesome set, but it wasn't what I was expecting. It wasn't the previous year. And then on the Saturday night, I had a really light night. It's a new venue. The colleges aren't back in the city yet. They haven't hired promoters. So I wasn't able to use that momentum from the set at Mohegan Sun to then carry into my next set of gigs. But I think this brings up just a larger conversation of this summer is just way slower than last summer. And it's not just in New Jersey. It's not just in New York. It's in Boston. It's in Connecticut. It's all over the place.
It's down here too. I went to dinner last night, and I was speaking to the bartender who I've known for a long time, and he's like, it has been absolutely slow up here. Like just slower than any normal summer has been. Like we have ebbs and flows down here where obviously with people going back to school, et cetera, et cetera. But he said I don't understand it because you know what? Like the shore in Jersey's been slow, and that's notoriously packed. And some of the premier venues down there have been a little slower than normal.
The Jersey Shore has been slowing for the last 2 years. Last year was the first year I was like, wow, this is weird. Happy hour's not packed, and Sunday's not as packed as it used to be. And that's where I first noticed it, last year.
I think I'm going by an outsider's perspective and not not by any fact here, but like maybe international travel's just up more than ever. Whereas like coming out of the pandemic, people were traveling more within the United States, getting out more to the places that they couldn't go during pandemic. Now we're a couple years removed, so it's maybe this gradual, this kind of like gradual increase in travel outside of the United States. Number one, that could be it. And then we could also be seeing, and multiple people said this. I spoke to that bartender yesterday, and then I spoke to one of the venue owners that we deal with, and I feel like that, like, we all kind of got comfortable and like, all right, we're out and we can do X, Y, and Z, and we don't care about spending our money on these experiences. And maybe now reality's setting in a little bit where it's like, all right, we got to like tighten it up a little bit financially, and we can't be spending, recklessly. So it could be a kind of a combination of the two things: international travel and maybe people tightening up the purse strings, kind of, so to speak.
Yeah, I know based on listening some other podcasts that international travel is huge, and a lot of the domestic places, destinations like Disney are way down this year because of it. That's definitely one of them. I do think, you brought up a couple articles that you found. One from Business Insider, and then the other one from Global News, and it was basically saying that young people are just not going out or drinking as much as previous generations. And I'm not good with the different generations. So what, I don't know, Gen Z and Gen X, are those the two newer ones? I don't even know.
Right. Yes. And so like my nephew would be like in the Gen Z, like he's college age.
What are we? Are we like tail end of Gen X kind of thing?
We're millennials? I don't fucking know.
Millennial? I don't know.
I don't know. I forget what we're called.
For this. He's up on all this.
I forget what we're called. Not good with these labels. But for the Gen Z, for Gen Zers, it says that the Gallup poll says that only 60. What is it? Gen Zers say they drink less than other generations. Only 60% drink. That's told by a Gallup poll. Only 60%, which is scaring the shit out of. And we brought this up in previous episodes. It's scaring the shit out of live music venues, because if you don't have alcohol sales in those live music venues, then your sponsorship's not coming through. Like, right? Like Budweiser's not going to sponsor your venue, and so on and so forth. And that's where all the money comes from. It doesn't come from ticket sales.
Right. The ticket sales are paying for the act, right? And the venues are making money on everything else.
It's paying for a portion of the act. I never really understood how it worked, right? Like, all right, you have 2,000 people at $60 a ticket. I know these guys are getting paid a lot more than that. Well, that's all on sponsorships backs and whatnot. So, and that's why when you walk into a live music venue, you have so many different alcohol signs and whatnot everywhere because of the marketing and the branding and the money that gets put behind that. I never put, two and two together, but it makes sense for them to sponsor those events, because then people go there and then they're going to buy product, right? Well, when product's not being sold and people are just drinking prior and ripping their vape, because that's kind of this Gen Z, this is how this generation goes out. Because one of our venues, the bartenders were complaining that they come in, they buy one drink, and they vape the whole night, and that's it. And it's like, all right, well, it's you can't have sustainable business. Anybody can't. Like, whether you are a bar or a major nightclub or a live music venue, you can't sustain business without selling alcohol.
Yeah, but maybe you can. I mean, what are the things if vaping and edibles or whatever legal vices people are into now, maybe the venues need to start selling those vices, and maybe that's how you make up some of that revenue from people who aren't drinking. I think if you're not drinking necessarily, why are you really going to a bar anyway? In most cases, I mean, I don't know.
Social atmosphere, I don't know, just getting out of the house, being able to listen to music in some capacity, whether it's a DJ or a live music act.
How many people who don't drink are frequenting bars? I mean, if I wasn't DJing and I wasn't drinking, why would I ever go to a bar? It's loud, there's a lot of people, it's crowded, it's not somewhere I'd necessarily want to be unless I was partaking in those type of things.
And here is our problem of nobody being at the venue. Well, not nobody, but the venues having slowed down, because this is what is happening. If let's say our generation 85% of people drank, right? That's 25% more people than are drinking in this generation. Right? So if I were to tell you the bar industry right now as a whole is about 25% down from previous years, what would you say? Would you say I'm over exaggerating?
Are you just throwing that number out there, or
Well, I know I don't know what like the I don't know what our like I should read down on this a little bit to see. Okay, yeah, I was being kind of speculative on the 85% of our generation, but if 60% is where they're at, of Gen Zers are at
yeah,
right
like
now,
we're down 20 or 25%
let's
from
call
what
it
art?
yeah. Being conservative, call it 20%. Let's say 80% of our generation drinks. I mean, all of my friends drink, literally all of them. I don't know anybody who's dead sober out of our generation. So, like, let's say it's down 20%. Like, would you say, like, if when I walk into a place that I walked into in years past, I'd be like, okay, that's not far off. I'd say that capacity / business sales are probably down 20%. That makes complete sense.
Yeah. I mean, I could see it for sure. I think, we grew up in an era where we were going to parties in high school and college, and I was drinking throughout that time. It was just what the people who came before us did and what we did,
Yeah.
And I think we've reached the point where now people aren't doing that, People are more aware of the health issues that alcohol and other substances can cause, and people are more aware of what they're eating and what they're putting into their body, and it's become more of a norm where you don't have to drink to have a good time, which I think is a great thing. I mean, it hurts our business, but in our industry, but I think overall, people are going to be more healthy if they're drinking less,
Well, look at the uptick in popularity of mocktails, right? And alcoholic spirits, right?
Well, that was something I was going to bring up. I mean, maybe that's something that bars and nightclubs need to start embracing, and maybe offering a mocktail menu.
1,000%. Because now I've been home. So I got back from my last trip up there, which we talked about last episode, where I was just on an absolute bender, and I took 10 days of straight no drinking at all. And I went to probably I counted. I think I did went to 7 bars in those 10 days with my sister, because we had family friends and friends in that were on vacation. So I was wound up in a bunch of bars, and I couldn't find one place that had those. What are they? I think they're spiritless or alcohol-free spirits. That's what it is. Alcohol-free spirits. I couldn't find one place with them.
Right. So you get the flavor of having a drink, but there's no alcohol.
Right. I was getting mocktails, quote unquote, that were just like a combination of juices, and I'm like,
I don't think people know about that alcohol, because if it weren't for you, I'd have no idea that even existed. That there was a liquid that tasted like alcohol but didn't have any alcohol in it.
Go look it up. And actually, Gary V's been this year in 2023, end of 2022, has been huge on the uptick in the amount of companies that have popped up within the last 3 years.
Right. He's a smart guy.
And he's big on trends, right? He's great to get ahead of trends. And that's why he invests. That's why he's a great investor. And he got ahead of this trend, and he's talked about it a lot. And because people are going to a healthier lifestyle, this all kind of, I don't feel like it all started with, but we all have our, everybody's in their athleisure wear, looks like they're coming or going to the gym. The health lifestyle is a multi-billion-dollar industry. So why not capitalize on it in the alcohol-free spirits world, right? This way you could still go out and enjoy dinner and go have a mocktail prior to dinner, and you could still, be healthy and lead a healthy lifestyle. But it hasn't become mainstream enough yet. And right. I think that when it becomes more mainstream, you'll see the bars that we work at, and even possibly not nightclubs. You'll never see nightclubs do this, because you're not taking the time to make a mocktail at a nightclub. It's never happening. You're not going to get a vodka soda. That's not the point of these alcohol-free spirits.
Maybe it could be. Maybe that's something that helps attract more people to your venue, if you could offer a vodka soda that doesn't have any alcohol content. So that you feel like you're part of the experience. And if you've been a drinker before, you're like, oh, this tastes like a vodka soda, but I'm not going to feel like shit tomorrow, and I'm not going to get drunk, and I'm going to be able to drive home and whatever.
Yeah, I think when I said vodka soda, it's probably the worst example, right? Because there's no taste to it, so just get a club soda. But like, let's say a whiskey drink, like okay, Manhattan, you get a
Right,
alcohol-free
and
Manhattan.
nightclubs are just churning and burning simple drinks, not sitting there and making an old fashioned or a Manhattan. Or
And that's why I think it leans a little more to like a lounge atmosphere, somewhere where places are taking the time to make
what about
cocktails.
other vices? Like, what if could venues sell edibles? Could venues sell? I don't know. I don't even know if that's illegal. To be quite honest,
I think we're probably ahead of it, ahead of the curve here, where the state's going to have to come in and they're going to have to set regulations and boundaries in order for you to go through that. They're going to make their piece, obviously.
Yeah.
And they're going to tax it, and they're going to make you pay for licenses and stuff like that. Don't be shocked if that is a thing. Maybe we're talking about something that's going to be big in 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
Where you have like a little area set up where you can, like you said, get your vapes and get your edibles of some sort, or mushrooms if that gets legalized, etc.
Right.
But then like you're really going to have to, then you're going to really have an experiential venue. I feel like then that's going to really enhance what people are expecting when they go out, which is something we've been talking about a lot too.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely ahead of this, and I don't know we're going to see any of these changes or trends happening in our venues, but something to think about and something that could be interesting moving forward if this trend of people drinking less stays consistent and keeps growing, or if less people are drinking as we move forward through the years here. I think another point, something that I think Cheesy also said, was this generation is broke and woke. So we talked about the woke part, where people want to be more healthy and they're not drinking as much. They're doing more, not partaking in as many vices, so to speak. But I think also this generation is more focused on experience and more focused on, having a healthier work-life balance and not killing themselves working 80, 90 hours a week, where they're not making as much money as they maybe could, but they have a better balance and are able to go enjoy more things like nature and working out and things that don't cost as much. And that's another trend that's happening.
Yeah, I think the people pulling back on work a little bit and not making that the number one priority is a part of why people aren't going out as much, because I don't think the United States is ahead of it like some other countries are. I just read another article that the UK is heavily trying to move toward a 4-day work week. And a lot of companies have, and those companies are seeing exponential productivity gains in moving to the 4-day work week, which is an ironic thing to happen, to pull back a day but your productivity goes up. But as I was talking about with somebody the other day, it's like, well, then like motivation goes up as well, right? You're gaining a day to do these extra things. And maybe once we get to that point, where you don't have to pull back on work and lose money, maybe my company, then I can remain at my salary, make a good salary, and then have a better work-life balance. It's just another one of those mental healthy lifestyle things that some places are ahead of yet, and we're not there yet on.
That's creating just a really positive culture in their workspace as well. If the ownership is saying, hey, we care about how you guys feel and how you are mentally, and we think that having that extra day will not only help you, but help us, because you'll be more productive in the time that you are here. And that makes a whole lot of sense to me.
Right.
It's just hard to wrap our heads around, I think, in this culture of like, grind it out, and the harder you work, the more money you make. And, I'm in that wheel, and I have to constantly tell myself, like, it's all right to take a day off. Like, it's all right to go to the pool today. It's all right to not work on music today if I can't, just not mentally there,
Right. 100%. It's something that we're in the in-between generation where we're still we're adjusting to this healthier lifestyle where we came up in a completely different way. It goes for a lot of factors of what we do in life. I feel like we are really stuck in the middle of everything. Our parents are old school, where our nieces and nephews are completely new school, and the people that we work with are younger, and then they've all grown up with their iPads and their iPhones and whatnot,
right,
where we remember vinyl and whatnot. So there's like this huge gap, and we're kind of stuck in the middle of it and having to adjust and adapt. And that's why we're seeing a lot of our venues not adjusting and adapting, because a lot of the ownership is a little older, right?
Right.
So it's really trying to keep your ear to the street and understanding what the trends are, and then adapting with those trends is what's going to make people successful. And I feel like we're seeing the tail end of what the old school generation ownership is giving to their patrons, and people are just saying it's not enough.
All right, let's transition here. We're talking about the old school generation. I wanted to bring up something that happened to us with a DJ that we've worked with for a long time that kind of took a step back for a little bit and now is kind of back in nightlife and back DJing. And it made me think of a lot of the DJs who have hit me up over the last couple of years while I've been booking DJs at Birch, and just my thought process as a booker and not as a DJ of like why I would or wouldn't work with those people. So it's like, I guess that was kind of a shitty way to set this conversation up, but I think what I'm seeing is DJs are only as big as what they've done recently. There's such a recency bias when it comes to customers, bookers, venue owners, as far as what's hot and who to book. And I think sometimes like the older generation of DJ thinks like, oh, well, I've been in the game for this long and I've done X, Y, Z and I've played all these places. But yeah, you haven't done that in 4 years. And it's
Right.
like, there's a huge disconnect between the DJs thinking they're bigger than they actually are right now. At one time, they were the biggest thing out. But right now, they're not. They haven't been doing all the things to stay relevant.
At our level of DJ, it's difficult because you have to do all the intangibles to stay relevant, right? I mean, like
if you're not putting out music, you're not creating content, you're not posting on socials, you're not making mixes. Like, how can we possibly book you? You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, I think from a DJ booking perspective, right, and we have our ear to the street for all that stuff, it's very important to do that. If you want to be involved in a DJ group like a 4 a.m. or name any prominent DJ group, you have to do all of those things to be relevant in those people's eyes. Now, from a smaller DJ perspective, like, you know, your local bars and even your local lounges that turn nightclub at night, I feel like those managers and that ownership, they don't have their ear to the street as much, right?
Yeah, they have no idea. That's why they hire us.
They have no idea. So, like, if you want to just play that circuit, it's fine, right? Like, you just play that circuit and it is what it is. But if you want to level up and be better, then you have to, you know, do all those intangibles like you said. But the recency bias thing is huge. Like, I told you yesterday that I haven't played over there in, 4 weeks probably. If I never came back and DJ'd again, nobody would ask for me. Nobody. And
I don't know if I agree with that, but
I truly believe that it'd be like, oh, haven't seen Gary in 6 to 8 months. Where's he been? But like, it's not that important. I'm not that important in the grand scheme of things. And I think some people like carry this like self-importance, and they come out of gigs and they're like, I fucking killed it tonight. Like, you should definitely have me back next week, or you should definitely have me back in, whenever, next month or whatever. And it's like, yeah, you did a great job and whatnot. I'm not trying to shit on anybody here, but I just realized it when I got 3 weeks out, and I'm like, nobody would care if I ever came back. They tell me all the time, you're my favorite DJ. You know, our ring is good when you're here. The bartenders love it. They get tipped more. But if I never came back, nobody would say anything. It's a really interesting and weird thing to think about, because we all get told we're great, right?
yeah.
Everybody tells you you're great when you walk out. You never walked out of a room saying like, you fucking suck tonight. It never happened.
Usually it will be the one that was like, I was terrible. I
Right,
know I
and
didn't
you
do
know
as good
it.
as I normally do. Or
And
I
you
just
know
didn't
it.
have the crowd like I normally do.
Right.
I mean, I hate to break it to you DJs, but 99.9% of you guys are replaceable.
We're all replaceable. Everybody's replaceable.
I think there is
DJs
a very
in the world,
small
replaceable.
fraction of DJs and artists. Their artists are not replaceable. If you're an artist and you're making music and you're creating something that is unique, I don't think you're replaceable. Maybe. I mean,
Right.
there are other artists that can replace you for sure.
You know who's not replaceable? James Hype, because nobody does what he does. You know what I mean? Like, there's
Yeah.
only a handful. You know who wasn't replaceable back in the day? DJ AM, because he was
Yeah.
revolutionary and he pushed the needle forward. You know who? A-Track. He's another one. Great for the DJ culture. Great for the community. Great at what he does. Unreal. But
Jazzy Jeff.
Jazzy Jeff, incredible. Like another one. You know, it's a handful, and they're the best of the best. Everybody else can, like, you know what? It was very interesting, actually, the Dead Mouse clip that I sent you about the festival.
The pre-recorded sets.
Pre-recorded sets of festivals. It's like, well, if that's the deal, and you're just standing up there making hand hearts, you know, what, like, you're replaceable. Get out of, like, you know, it's not.
Yeah, but they're not replaceable because they're playing music that people are buying tickets to go listen to.
Your production's not replaceable. But from a DJ perspective, not a production perspective, different.
I actually agree with Deadmau5, where if you're going and DJing a festival, I understand why they play pre-recorded sets. It's not because they can't DJ. It's because the cryo, the fireworks, the lights, the animations and video behind you, all of that has to be in sync, or it doesn't create as great of an experience for the crowd. Right. They're trying to have people come back next year or tomorrow to each of these festivals, and they're putting out a better product in their eyes if all that stuff is done. Listen, most of those guys can all DJ, right? Like, unless you're going and doing that James Hype stuff, who cares if it's pre-recorded or not? That's the way I look at it. You're creating this experience, and it's a show. It's not. You're not going to the club and watching someone DJ.
I think when talking about it from a festival standpoint, that's not the way to look at it. Right, because like those guys have made it already. It's a completely different thing. Like, right, I think I guess we kind of got ahead of ourselves when talking about like the best of the best and who's like replaceable in that regard. Because like those guys, they like we said, they already made it. Like, they're there, you know. But like on a mid-level standpoint, mid-level DJ standpoint, everybody is in fact replaceable because a lot of people can do what you do. You know,
think about if you're listening to this and you maybe disagree or you agree. Think about what you've done in the last 6 months, and if you haven't put out music, mixes, edit packs, consistently putting out TikToks or reels. If you haven't done that stuff, how can you possibly expect to get booked when there are other DJs who are doing exactly the same thing as you and more?
Right.
Like, they can play the music you can play, and they're doing all this other stuff. So you have to think about yourself as, what have you done lately, right? What are you putting out into the world? How are you staying relevant? How are you creating a name or a buzz for yourself? How are customers going to places and asking if you're DJing? If that's not happening, how can you possibly expect to get booked? I don't understand.
Yeah, if you want to level up and you want to continue to take the next steps in your DJ career, you need to be doing all this stuff, or else you're just going to be stuck at doing the local bars, and you have to be content with that. Right? I think that's the main thing. You have to ask yourself, like, why do I deserve to play the biggest nightclub in said city? Right?
Yeah, I agree. And this doesn't go for just new DJs. This goes for older DJs too. If I'm not consistently putting content out, if I'm not pushing my boundaries, if I'm not making music, if I don't have a social media strategy, how do I possibly think that venues in other states are going to book me or even know who I am?
Right.
So think about that in the same way in your local market. Just because you DJ a couple places doesn't mean that anybody knows who you are.
It's true. Even some of the biggest DJs in markets, people don't know who they are. You know? You need to do a great job at marketing yourself, putting yourself out there and being all over everything. And
well, we started this. I started the conversation with a DJ that took some time off and is now coming back. And we had venues questioning, like, well, can this person play my room? And it's like, well, this is the biggest DJ we got on our roster. What do you mean? This person's played the biggest festivals in the country and has played all over the place and is on the, various well-known things.
Yeah,
It sort of blew my mind. And I was like, wow, it really is. Like, what have you done for me lately? Business,
Yeah, especially if you're out of the game and you go down go down a different route and take different ventures over like a year or 2 years period of time, and then
Right.
tack on the pandemic with that, and then it's like a lot of years because a lot of the older guys did take some breaks coming out of the pandemic, you know. So that recency bias for us older guys are definitely, it's even more relevant.
Yeah. Another thing to bring back up, you had said, like, if you just didn't come back up here, who would be knocking at your door? Yeah, I think about that as well. And it's like, how long would it take if I just stopped gigging for people to just not ask to book me anymore? Like, 2 months, 3 months? If a venue hits you up and says, hey, Gary, we wanted to book you this month, and you don't give them any dates, you're like, oh, I'm too busy. And then they ask you the next month and you say the same thing. Do they even ask the third time? That's it,
no,
right?
Of course they don't. I'd be shocked if they asked the second month. We live in such a now culture, right? No matter what you do in life, everything is instant and it's now. And we're part of that, right? You need a DJ tonight. Somebody hits us up right now and texts, oh, I need a DJ tonight. We'd have them a DJ tonight.
Yeah, we'll make it happen.
Right? They'll fall in love with that DJ. They'll never need to book another DJ for a, Tuesday night again. You know what I mean? Until that guy moves on and they find somebody, and then they need somebody else.
Yeah.
It's such a we're in a now culture, right? Years ago, it wasn't like that. It was like you have to know a DJ and to go and find them. And like it's got to be a friend's friend or a friend's brother or sister or whatever it might be. Now it's just everything's just so instant. That's why you're so replaceable.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with you're a bad DJ or you're not doing the right things. It's just because the accessibility to everything is so easy. And it's at everybody's fingertips all the time. And that's why everybody's replaceable. I think that's really what it comes down to. And that's why, like, if I never came back up there again, it would not matter because there's a billion other DJs that are just as good.
There's not a billion other DJs that are just as good. Think about how many DJs we work with and the venues that you work at. Like, you're one of the top 3 DJs at all the venues you work at.
Because all the places that I pick now to play, I have a very intimate understanding of what that area needs.
Well, you put
right?
yourself in the right position to play the rooms where you're going to be successful, you know?
You know what? This is the other point, actually, too, that I thought about the other day, is that just because you can go play a room doesn't mean you should, right? Like, just because you have the access to play that room doesn't mean you're going to fit in that room, right? I feel like I get a lot of DJs that come in and they're like, oh, I really want to play this room. It's like,
why?
Your DJ style doesn't fit this room at all.
Right.
So your self-awareness for what you do as a DJ is terrible. So now I have to that's suspect, number one, right? Like, you don't understand what you're good at. So you should understand what you're good at as a DJ and then apply that to where you want to go play. We talk about this every year in our end-of-year conversations with all of our DJs. And sometimes we you scratch your head. It's like, well, you want to go play Birch, but like, but you want to be just like a straight, whatever, Latin DJ. It's like, well, that doesn't fit. There might be a party that comes along that's a Latin party that we can put you in. That works.
Right.
It's understanding what your excellence is and what you're really good at as a DJ, and then putting yourself in the position. That's why I play all the places I play, because I can get heavy Latin, I can get heavy soca, I can get heavy, whatever it might be, but you can't do that everywhere.
But
and
not
I don't
a lot
want
of DJs are able to do that. You're unique in the fact that you can do well in rooms where you might not necessarily know the music as well, but you'll make sure that you do the homework to be able to know the music.
But I also want to play unique rooms, right?
Right.
I don't want to go play the traditional standard spot, because when you dig into some of that stuff, which you do once you start playing that music, it works its way into your set, whether you like it or not. And then you go and you play that stuff, and people turn around like, why the hell is he playing a soca record? It's like, well, because there's rooms I play that can get away with it. So it's knowing where to place yourself, right? And then that's kind of that's where you can become a little less replaceable, I think, is when you have a unique talent for certain rooms. And find those rooms.
DJs that are listening right now, think about all the places you're booking at and maybe rank out the places, right? Like, not only the best venues, but the best fit for you. And I think maybe try to get multiple bookings from like your top 3 places, let's say, and try to fill your calendar out more with those venues, and then you could go to the next venues. We talked about this before, right? You build out that list of all the connections you have or all the places you play. Focus on the ones that fit you the best. Like, just because it's a big room doesn't mean that you have to play there or you should want to play there.
Right.
And I'll give you an example in my own business, right? Like, I'm at a place where I'm making EDM, right? I'm making electro house, tech house, whatever you want to call it. All my edits are in that genre, in that style. And I have venues that hit me up to book me that it's like a hip hop room or a hip hop and Latin room. And like, can I do that? Yeah, I can do that, but that's not what I do. That's not why people book me. So while they might want to pay me my rate and give me the 2-hour headliner set and it's a good room, it just doesn't necessarily fit with what I'm doing at this point in my career. Maybe 5 years ago when I was playing way more hip hop, it might have made sense, you know? And there's like good rooms, spots in Philly that I'm like, I just don't think it makes sense for me right now, you know?
Yeah, you've evolved as a DJ and a producer and an artist, right? Because you've gone from DJ to like remixer to producer. And you've been good enough to know that, like, all right, like, I shouldn't go play this hip-hop room because it doesn't go with what I'm trying to do. You put so much work into your brand and your music and what you do, and I think that people from 5 years ago are like, oh, his name's gotten bigger, but they don't realize why, right? They're like, Cream's gotten bigger. He used to open here. Now he's a headliner. We want him to come back. And it's like, well, you're a hip-hop Latin room, like you said, and it's like, this doesn't make sense anymore. It used to make sense because you used to be a lot more open format and a lot less artist. So it's making the bookers understand kind of where you're at too. Especially when they have
when I was
past.
younger, people would come up to me and hear me play EDM and be like, I thought you were a hip hop DJ. And then like later on, people would hear me play EDM people would hear me play hip hop and be like, oh, I thought you were an EDM DJ. I'm like, well, I'm an open format DJ. I could do it all, but like
right. It's you said something earlier that I pointed out also the other day when we were talking, is that just because one spot is the biggest spot in your market doesn't mean you have to go play there, right? I just want to highlight that once again because it's so overlooked. There's plenty of there are some big spots in our market that I don't personally want to play at all. I'm like, oh, it just doesn't fit me. It doesn't feel right. Just because it's the best doesn't mean you should want to.
Yeah, I think some of the newer generation just, you know, they want to play the big spots and they want to play the festivals and they see other DJs doing it and they want to do it too, whether it fits their brand or not. And I think, again, this goes back to really what you had said about understanding, being self-aware and understanding like who you are. And a good way to do this is maybe go to one of your DJ friends and be like, when you hear my name or you think about my brand, what do you think of? And just see what someone who you trust says. And if they say something that you don't want to portray, you need to do a better job of, narrowing what you are and what your brand represents and what people think about when they hear your DJ name.
Yeah. This becomes really muddy when you talk about, and we can go down a whole. We should probably have a private event DJ on for this conversation, but this can go down a crazy rabbit hole when talking about private event DJs that also play nightlife, right? And guys that kind of want to level up that are private event DJs, but make their chops being private event DJs, but still want to level up in the nightclub. I think we should it's something we will do. We'll have somebody on that kind of is in those situations and maybe how to go about trying to level up as a private event DJ and still maintain that work balance.
Yeah, I think that would be a great conversation. One other point I want to make before I forget is what we're talking about isn't necessarily, it's not for the brand new DJ. If you're a brand new DJ, you're trying to figure out what you are, right? So you should take all the gigs that come your way. Don't say no to anything really, like especially if you're brand new. You just need the experience of going and playing sets. Whether it's an open format bar set, an opening set at a nightclub, a private event, whatever it is, the experience of just playing music for people and reading a crowd is the most important thing. What we're talking about being more selective is as you've DJ'd out for a year, 2 years, 3 years, and you're starting to get a better idea of who you are. Maybe you just started making music or, you just spend some time focusing on your brand. Then you can start narrowing and really understanding and figuring out who you are. And listen, we're all, this is a constant battle, right? I talked to Angelo the Kid recently, and we talked about his music and where he's trying to go with his music. And I'm not going to kind of explain what he said to me, but he's still figuring things out too, where it's like, I just want to make good music, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a certain style. You guys could think the same way about your gigs. It doesn't have to, you don't have to DJ one style. You can kind of DJ a bunch of stuff until you figure out what you want to do. And then once you figure it out, you go all in on that particular thing.
Yeah, like I said before, we live in a generation that's constantly consuming new things daily, right at your fingertips, and music's no different, right? So like Skrillex is a great example. Like and Diplo is another great example where they produce a million different types of genres, right? And are successful in doing so. So it's not impossible, but when you're starting out, it's good to dabble in a little bit of everything, like you said. Find your lane, really go in on that lane, and then you can go back to doing all of the different things if you want to, once you're successful.
The other piece of advice I'd give is whatever you do it well. Think about it, strategize about it, come up with a plan on how you're going to put something out into the world, and then execute that plan. And I guarantee you, people, customers, whoever's consuming the content you're putting out, they're going to think more highly of it. I know it's important to put out a lot of stuff, but sometimes, especially for bigger projects, it's really important to think about, how do I want people to view this? How do I want my brand to look when I put this out into the world? I think that's really important. It's something that I've always been very conscious of, and it's something that's really important to not only DJ Kareem's brand, but the Get Down brand, So whatever you guys do it well. Put some thought into it. Don't rush it. Don't force it. Don't put it out if it's not good enough yet, just to put something out. And I know in a world where everything gets consumed and it's here and gone and we need to put out a lot of stuff, I still think it's really important that you think about your brand and what you're putting out to the world in that way.
This is why it's good to batch stuff, too, no matter what you're doing. If you're doing flyers or you're doing music or you're doing really anything, like you just batch a bunch of things, right? This way, if you do get in a pinch, you can kind of fall back on some of the things that you have batched, right? You need to get ahead. We always work better when we're ahead. If we're a week ahead or 2 weeks ahead, you're just putting out a better product because you are able to sit and think about what you want to put out, and you can have a conversation around it and then put it out. It's not like, oh, we need to put this out tonight, so it needs to get done. It's never a good look. It never comes out the way you want it to, and you look back on it and say, oh, well, that was rushed. It reminds me of a conversation that we had with Ferrari, and he had a student that had put something out. He went to another producer, I think it was Zach Martino, and he was like, oh, how do you like this? And Zach was like, oh, it sounds rushed, because it was. You can tell when something's rushed and something's just put out there just to get put out there. So take your time, like you said, and collaborate with people that you trust, and then batch things also as you go along.
All right, let's get into our last topic, which is kind of like a silly, fun one, but I wanted to bring up because there's been like social media posts going around our area saying that Hoboken, which is our home city, New Jersey, is one of the 3 best party cities in the U.S. The top 3 were Miami, Atlantic City, and Hoboken. I don't even know the source of. We were like looking for the source yesterday. It's a website called bonusfinder.com. So take with that as you will. But I just thought it was an interesting topic to bring up. And I don't know, like, this is just another one of those lists that gets put out into the world, like the top 100 clubs in the world and the best top 100 DJs and all this stuff. That's such like a opinionated topic that people take for being the law.
It's incredible when I see people repost it. Now, I'm hoping that most people are reposting this tongue-in-cheek kind of a thing, But for some people, I feel like they're reposting it as like, oh, this is like for real. There's so many of these ridiculous websites and lists that come out weekly that really nobody should be paying attention to. If it's a real publication that is reputable.
Oh, bonusfinder.com is not a real publication?
I'm sure that the author of that article, the writer of that article is, legit. I don't know. If it's not a legit publication that has been around for years and is reputable, like don't be reposting this stuff. It's ridiculous. It's just for somebody to think that any nightlife spot in Hoboken, New Jersey is a top 25 anything in the world or the country is insane.
I guess it really depends how you look at it. There are so many liquor licenses in the city compared to the size, and I know. There's been other things discussed that like Hoboken has the most bars per square mile or whatever. Like there's a lot of these stats out there, but we all know that Hoboken is not one of the top 3 party cities in the world or in the country. But if we were putting together a list, what are some of the cities? We don't have to make a top 3 or a top 5, but just like throw out some cities that you think are in that conversation.
For some reason, like Austin comes to mind. Like I feel like that's a great going out city where you can like nightclub, see live music, comedy. They're known for a lot of different things in entertainment. So I think that's a great nightlife spot. If you want to put nightlife under a bigger umbrella,
how is
not
Vegas
just nightclubs.
How is Atlantic City on the list, but Vegas is not? How does that make any sense?
Vegas is number 1, obviously.
Vegas and Miami have to be 1 and 2, right?
Yeah, I feel like Miami has kind of fallen by the wayside a little more, where it's not as versatile. I think I don't know. I'm a stone's throw away, and I don't go down there often, and I don't really love the vibe down there though either. It's just I used to, but it's not something I'm super into anymore. But Miami, Vegas for sure, 100%. New York City, I feel like is getting better. Has gotten better in the last 5 years.
New York City's definitely getting better. I had a conversation with someone about the rates in New York, and on the high end, the rates going up, which I was pretty surprised about. But it's great to hear, because New York's forever been the city that pays, a DJ $300 to go play the biggest club in New York.
That's why our biggest talent has moved. Like in the 2010s, our bigger talent and the better producers moved out of the area.
Yeah.
They went to LA, they went to Vegas, they went to Miami, but they never stayed in New York because the rates weren't good enough.
Do you put Brooklyn on this list? Like Brooklyn has a ton of venues, especially for the house music world right now, and live musicians as well.
When you say New York City, Brooklyn's a part of that.
Yeah, I get it, but
you can specifically say Brooklyn is Brooklyn's better than Manhattan 1,000%.
Well, that's really what I was getting at, like Manhattan versus the other boroughs, because people think of New York, they think of Manhattan, and all the tourists that come in are going to go to Manhattan, but really Brooklyn has the better nightlife scene for sure.
It's the epicenter of New York City.
Manhattan's getting better. You're right. It is. Actually, it's been cool to see some new venues pop up, and like I said, the rates going up. And
well, what has happened in New York? Not to cut you off, just real quick though. What has happened in New York from when Brooklyn first became a place to go and hang out at? That's where all the local DJs would play, because you'd have all like the international DJs coming into Manhattan, and then all the bigger nightclubs on the island, they went away with Giuliani and all that. So then all of the international DJs had to go play Brooklyn, and now you're seeing the bigger New York City acts back on Manhattan, which is amazing. And now you're saying that the rates are going up, so hopefully it'll keep some of that talent around.
I don't know. Other cities, I like the Austin one. What about like Scottsdale, Arizona? I feel like that's a new one that's kind of blowing up.
That scene there is crazy. One of our buddies went for a business trip and said that they spent obscene amounts of money. Like 30, 40,000 a night kind of a thing. To have places that you can do that and then walk away and say, oh, that was worth it, is crazy to me. Like, do we have, like, I mean, I'm sure there's a few. We haven't been out to like big spots like that, I feel, in a while in Manhattan. I'm sure there are a few that you can go do that and be like, oh, that was definitely worth doing. But they said that they went to a different place like every night. And they said it was like day party life that like then fed into night party life, which is like, incredible. I think to have a really great nightlife city, you need to have day life too.
I agree with that. Pool party life or just something, which is
that's why Vegas.
That's
is
why all
good.
the warm cities tend to do better.
Yeah, Vegas, Miami, Scottsdale.
I can't
like
really
you said.
think of any other city that I'd put in the conversation. I don't know. What do you guys think? What cities do you guys think are the biggest party cities or best nightlife cities?
I would love to know the one. We've missed a ton, I'm sure. So I'd love to know other
drop it in the comments for sure. Let's get this ball rolling.
Maybe we could talk about it on the next pod a little bit just to follow up. But yeah,
Yeah. All right. That's
Good
an
place to
interesting
wrap.
combo. It's fun. Like I said, it's a fun one just to kind of talk about a little bit. And listen, I'm sure there's other cities like you said that we don't really know anything about that are probably awesome. Like I'm
Yeah, I
going down
mean,
to Charleston this weekend. Like
I was just gonna say.
I wouldn't put Charleston in the conversation with any of these other ones, but Charleston's a great party city. It's a small city, it's a smaller market, but like Trio is an amazing nightclub. There's a couple other nightclubs there, and there's
Yeah.
a huge college bar scene there, and it's always a great vibe when I'm there. So, like I said, I'm sure there's other cities that are similar to that where they're not as big in name, but they get down.
Those are the cities that, like, if you don't want to go do the bottle service heavy stuff, those are great cities to go party in, where like you have a little bit of everything: bar, lounge, nightclub, great restaurants,
Yeah.
and then also like a beach scene and whatnot. So there's a plenty of little cities like that are great. That could be like a secondary list. I would love to list those out too. Like, what are your big nightlife like top 5 real nightlife bottle service cities, and then what are your like party cities, your Nashvilles and things like that.
Yeah, actually Nashville's probably another really good one.
I mean, you want to talk about bachelorette parties? That's where you go hang
We
out.
definitely forgot that one. That's a great call.
Nashville's a
I've
good
heard
one.
nothing but incredible things about that city. Now, we all know country's not really my vibe, not really my jam, but
It's live music forward, like it's all honky tonks and definite day drink bar spots.
the DJ bookings have definitely gone up there. We've talked to a couple of
Have they?
DJs down there, and I know Big Country goes down there a bunch, and he's been telling me that all of these live musician venues now have like the rooftop with the DJ or the second room with the DJ type thing, which is pretty cool.
Man, I think I got to go down there with country next time, or drive up there from here with
Should.
country next time. That'll be great.
He's talked to me about it too, that I should take a trip with him one time. I would
That's
love to. I've never been. I would love to go experience it, just as a person, not as DJ Kareem.
You'd love the food there. The food scene obviously is incredible. I ate at a high end like modern restaurant, and then ate at the barbecue spots that you need to eat at. Phenomenal scene. So
All right, cool. Anything we need to promo? I want to shout out Get Down Radio. So if you guys don't know, we have a monthly radio show where we get to highlight a lot of our talent on our team. This month, Joey DeSarno laid down a mix. Haven't listened to it yet, but it's going to get listened to in the gym this week. I'm pumped. Joey always brings high energy EDM, probably some old school throwback stuff in there, which I'm excited to check out. So if you guys want to check that out, go search Get Down Radio, check the show notes. You can go listen to that mix. And like I said, we've had a ton of mixes out already. So anything else? Actually, you know what?
Coming up. I'm coming up for the weekend.
All right, Gary's up for the weekend. If you guys want to come, where are you going to be this weekend?
A lot of 626. It's Jersey City Pride weekend.
Okay.
So I'm back with doing Latin Night on Thursday, obviously. Friday, I'm back with all the old school drag queens are coming back for a show. All the ones from when 626 first opened.
That's
and
cool.
I was the resident there every Friday, so we're all back together on Friday night, which is going to be a fun time for sure. Saturday at Birch, which I'm really looking forward to. So if anybody wants to pop some bottles or come hang out and listen to
DJ Cream, GaryW weekend at Birch.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Wow, we better sell bottles or else they're going to fire us.
That's great.
So that's fun. And that's it. I mean, that's, like I said, like I think I'll be on Ashford rooftop at some point too.
Nice.
So if you want to listen to some like reggae and soca and Eastern Caribbean stuff, I'll be there doing that.
Nice. So yeah, I'm at Birch and I'm down in South Carolina at Trio, Charleston, making my triumphant return. I'm excited about this. I'm excited to go throw down. I think, the last time I was there, we had some complications with travel, and I didn't really get to throw down a cream set. So I'm really excited to go there with a little chip on my shoulder to really show the ownership and staff like what I do on a weekly basis. So super hyped for that. One other thing to promo: Cream and Friends Edit Pack Volume 2 is out. It's myself, Sam Collins, Sergio, Vando on the track. There's a mix and the pack. It's doing really well. It's been sitting in the top. It's number 2 on Hype Edit. It's been sitting there for a while, and I want to rock it out. I want this one to go bigger than the first one. So if you guys haven't downloaded it, go check that out.
And real quick, I just want to get ahead of this. I know it's a few weeks away, but our Get Down DJ Group monthly event, Open Decks event, will be September 13th. GaryW also did a great job with the first one. I don't know if we've had a pod since then. he did a great job with the first one. Open Decks was really successful. Jules ripped it up, killed it. Videos on YouTube. Go check that out. I think it's still up unless copyright took us down. I know we were getting nailed for copyright infringement. So go check it out on YouTube. I think it's still there. If not, we're going to try to find a way around that for you guys to consume Jules' mix for that. But yeah, September 13th. We'll promo this every week until then. So
Dope. All right, guys. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Get Down. Talk to you guys soon. Peace.